Moto Guzzi modified its already sporty V9 bobber with even more race-tastic yummy goodness to produce its new for 2019 V9 Bobber Sport. The Sport pays homage to the post-World War II flat dirt track racers of the late 40s and 50s with beefy tires, liberal blackout treatment and fork boots. Aesthetics may be intentionally dated, but performance from the 850 Twin is entirely modern with a double dose of electronic safety gear to boot. A special, two-tone palette wraps the package up and identifies it at a glance, and of course, the racing bits make a slightly more subtle impact that further sets it apart from the base V9 bobber. The V9 platform strikes a classic standard pose with mid-mount foot controls that places the heels right below the knees both for comfort and to allow for a little body English if you feel like tossing it around in the corners. A cut-down front fender starts the custom references early, as does the blackout treatment on the rims, fork sliders and triple tree that continues throughout the rest of the design pretty much everywhere that isn't polished or shot with the orange and black sport paint scheme. The V9 tank has a rather distinctive shape that runs with an outward crease down each side that seems to mimic the lateral line of a fish somewhat and doubles as a place to hang a knee during hard corners. Another model-specific feature is the solo saddle that slings your butt at a relatively low 30.9 inches off the ground. That's slammed down almost an inch lower than the base bike, and the saddle has a unique shape as well with a faux tuck and roll finish in black pleather. Unburdened of its pillion pad, the rear fender takes on a longer countenance that contributes more race, custom flavor to the mix and is shot in black to accentuate that connection. Though the decision to run all-in shocks had more to do with function than form, there's no denying the visual effect that those coil-over, piggyback shocks have on the look. Tubular steel members make up the double downtube frame and the bolt-on double cradle section that supports the V-twin power plant. The frame is an exercise in pragmatism, with nothing showy or radical about it, just a classic standard not entirely unlike the old-school UJM models that were ubiquitous in the 60s and 70s. Symmetrical, 16-inch rims rock a skinny spoke design in cast alloy with a 130/90 upfront and a 150/80 out back that add more yet to the custom panache. Woo! 40mm forks float the front end, but the rear shocks alone bear the trifecta of adjustments, so you can only dial in the rear end, which is a shame, really. Oh well, gotta keep the price down somehow, right? Guzzis are generally made conspicuous by their transverse V-twin engine arrangement, and that's certainly the case with the Sport. The jugs of the air-cooled mills stick out well into the slipstream where they can efficiently eliminate the waste heat with twin valve heads that keeps the valvetrain complexity to a minimum. No half a dozen umbrella valves, variable timing or Desmowhatever closure, just a couple of poppets to control the flow. Bore and stroke measure out at 84mm and 77mm, respectively, for a total displacement of 853 cc, and that lands it firmly in the mid-range displacement bracket. A ride-by-wire throttle conveys rider demand to the throttle bodies that make up the induction control, but the real electronic magic is found in the Moto Guzzi Traction Control system that comes standard. It monitors front and rear wheel speeds and intervenes when a differential is detected, and that joins the ABS to complete the safety-related gear to make the Sport a relatively new user-friendly ride, or possibly a first upgrade bike. Emissions meet Euro 4 standards, and the power figures show 55 horsepower at 6,250 revolutions per minute with 45.7 pounds of grunt at a low 3 grand. If you live in an area that has shared driver's licenses, you can get the Sport configured to meet A2 license requirements. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Brits and other Euros. A 6-speed transmission keeps the engine in its useful rev range with a shaft-type final drive to carry the power to the rear wheel. Looks like the factory in Mando dell'Aria, Italy, plans on unleashing the new V9 Bobber Sport on the US market come December of 2018. Msrp is expected to be $10,690, and that's only a couple of bills higher than the base bobber, so you aren't paying for any kind of exclusivity here, but that should keep it accessible to most budgets.